Hey guys, so continuing with our series for beginners, today we're going to be talking about depth of field. Now, depth of field is a range of distance that appears sharp in your camera. I'm going to explain that a little bit more. It's controlled by your f-stop. So in this video, I talked about what your f-stop is or your aperture and how you can change it in your camera. The link to the video is also in the description box below. The simplest way I can think to explain depth of field is imagine three people, one standing in front of the other, and your depth of field will determine whether all three of them are in focus or only one of them is in focus. I'm sure you've seen pictures where like there's a leaf hanging on a tree and only that one leaf is in focus, but all the other ones around it or behind it are out of focus. That's depth of field in action. Your depth of field is changed with your f-stop. So using a wide open aperture, that's where the hole in your lens is really big, and so your f-stop is a very small number. So f1.2, f1.8, f2.8 will give you a very shallow depth of field. Remember our illustration about three people standing in line? That means that only one of them will be in focus. Whereas if you're using an f-stop that's really high up, so f22, f11, even f8, it means that probably all three of them will be in focus. What this means in your images is you can use this to create artistic effects. Usually when I'm shooting weddings, I'm shooting at a really low f-stop, like 2.8, because I want the pictures to be soft and dreamy. And having a low f-stop gives me that effect. So I've talked about a situation where I would use an f-stop that's f2.8 or lower. I want to talk about situations where I use an f-stop where the diameter of the hole in the lens is much smaller, so f8 or f11. Oftentimes when I'm shooting fashion in studio, especially beauty images, I do want my model to be sharp from the tip of her nose all the way to her ears. So I'm going to use an f-stop that's usually about f8. On most lenses, that's also the sweet spot where the focus is sharpest. That's a little tip for you. If you want to hear more about different types of lenses and the lenses I use, you can click this link or go to the description box below for the link about my video on lenses. Now, another situation where I would use an f-stop that's a bit of a larger number is when I'm shooting groups, because in the typical group shot, let's say you're shooting 50 people, so you're going to have 5 rows of 10 people, and you want everyone on the first row to be as sharp as everyone on the 5th row. To do this, you're going to need a really high f-stop, maybe f22 or anywhere between f11 and upwards is what you're going to use to ensure that none of the rows are blurry. This is used during weddings. If you are at a corporate shoot and you're shooting, for example, the whole board of directors, you would need to use a high f-stop. It's also used if you're doing landscapes and you want everything both in the foreground of the image, that's a part of the image closest to you, and the background of the image, that's a part of the image furthest from you, to be sharp, you're going to need to use a really high f-stop. If you're a photographer who takes school pictures, you will need to use an f-stop that is a larger number, so f22 or f11, to shoot a group picture of all the school children in one class, for example. Or even if you're shooting the whole school, you'll need a really high f-stop because that's going to be a very large group. But if you're taking a portrait of just one person and you want the background to be kind of blurry and a very nice creamy look, then you actually may want an f-stop that's closer to 4.5 or even lower to get that nice soft effect going. This though won't work if you have even 2 people in the picture, because if one person is even slightly more in front than the other person, you're going to have the problem of one person in focus and the person next to them slightly out of focus, which is not desirable, and your clients may not be too happy with that. So a quick recap: if you want a large part of the image to be in focus, you need to use a higher f-stop. If you want only a small part of the image to be in focus, then you need to use a lower f-stop. A lower f-stop is one where the diameter of the hole in your lens is really wide open. A high f-stop is one where the diameter of the opening in your lens is really small. One of the cool things your camera can do is you can actually tell your camera that I want to make all decisions regarding the f-stop, but you make decisions regarding the ISO and the aperture and all the other settings needed to take a picture. If you use a Canon, on the camera modes dial, it should be the AV button. On a Nikon, it's going to be the A button. So if you're not very confident about changing your ISO and your shutter speed, but you do want to play around with your depth of field, switch your camera into that mode and just change the depth of field, and the camera will make all the other decisions for you. Thanks for watching, guys. If you're a beginner and you have any questions or need any clarifications about what we discussed in this video, please drop me a comment in the comment section below. If you're a professional photographer and you have any useful tips and tricks to contribute to this conversation, again, please comment in the comment section below. You can also connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat, or on my website, www.tandiwemoreo.com. Links to those have been provided in the description box below. If this was your first time being with us today, thank you for watching. Please hit the subscription button so that you can get my videos every Monday and Thursday about this beginner series. If this is not your first time, thank you for being so awesome and coming back and following this series. And if you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Until next time, I'll see you guys.